Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Youth and Women Platform. And this is your host, Sister Zinat. The purpose of the program is we talk about the problems and solution of youth as well as women with our experts. So today's expert is Sister Maryam Muaddal from United States of America. She was born and raised in America. She did her bachelor's in accounting, and then she had the passion to come to Iran to study Islam. And now she's studying master's in Islam, that is in philosophy. Assalamu alaikum, sister. How are you?
Walaikum assalam. Alhamdulillah, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you very much. And thank you so much for being part of this program.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Today we will be talking about the role models in Islam.
Inshallah. Inshallah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalamu wassalat ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa ahlul uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Sadaqallahu al-aliyyul azim. Assalamu alaikum ya Fatima Zahra wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So today we're going to be talking about the different role models that we do have, especially specifically in the Quran. Now, when you look in the Quran, when you look at the topics that the Quran brings, the topics that Allah picks to talk about are key topics. He just doesn't mention a topic without reason. He has wisdom. He's the all-wise. He's the wisest of the wise. And so it's with purpose that He does bring topics in there. So for example, the issue of Tawheed, the issue of Allah's oneness, you see this a constant theme within the Quran. Why? Because this is a theme, this is an issue that's very key, and that there's a lot of danger surrounded this topic. You see, during the time of the Prophet, people didn't worship Allah, right? They worshipped idols. And even till today, we have this issue where people forget Allah. People forget to worship a God. Religion is forgotten. Secularism is the trend of today, right? And so religion is put aside. And so that's why constantly Allah brings this issue of Tawheed. And another issue that's also something that's important within the Quran is the issue of women. Women is also mentioned in the Quran. And it's an important because the sanctity of women is typically overlooked. And it's not just the time of the Prophet. The time of the Prophet, you had men killing babies.
Yes.
That were girls because they were embarrassed that they were girls, right?
Yeah.
You have that. They were kind of pushed aside. They weren't treated right. And even till today, we still have issues within our society that women aren't treated right. They're not treated with respect. And I don't mean just within our Western societies and the non-Muslims. I also mean it within our Muslim communities. Back home, sometimes you'll see in the masjids, women often get the basement, the dusty, dirty basement, or the audio system won't be working. They won't be able to see the speaker, or the volume would be so low you can't hear the speaker. And I've been in masjids or centers where you could barely hear what the speaker was saying because the kids were so loud, the speaker was so low, and you couldn't hear the speaker, you couldn't see the speaker, so you basically didn't get anything, unfortunately. And this is a problem, right? Or I've been to masjids where, like, they had a area where it was for the children and the mothers can go sit there because they have children and it's very loud. And the brothers turned off the light to the staircase that would go up there because they were doing majlis, or they had a majlis and muatam, so they turned off the lights. And it was so sad because if mothers and children would be going up and down the stairs, because children do that, they tend to move around a lot, they would fall because the lights were off. They weren't that considerate of the mothers and the women and the children to leave the light on just because they had a majlis. Now, is this the type of akhlaq and a character we see from the Prophet? No. The Prophet from the get-go, when masjids were made, he cared about how the women were situated. Was it in a way where women could be the last people to enter because they have other responsibilities? They're usually the ones taking care of the children, so they will need to be able to get in last and leave early, right? Because if they want it, and it happens with kids, right? They have a tantrum, you need to leave the masjid, or you have an emergency at home, you have to leave. So it's really important that that within our centers that they pay attention to these things because the Prophet would do it. We see
Yeah.
this in the akhlaq and the character of the Prophet.
Nature, yeah.
The nature of the Prophet. And it's unfortunate because women aren't seen within our community sometimes. Women aren't, people, unfortunately, the brothers in our community, sometimes they forget that we exist. And I've seen this firsthand. Like, I remember within one of the centers I was, we were having a meeting it was about one of the majlis, the 10 days that we had for Muharram. We were trying to organize it. And I remember saying something, giving a suggestion. And then immediately a brother starts talking, ignores that I said anything, as if I don't exist, and completely ignored me. And I was just shocked, like, why are you pretending I don't exist? I'm here. I just said something. Acknowledge that I said something. And it was sad. It was really hurtful. I've also seen brothers. I remember once a brother came up to me, and he showed me this piece of bread. It was in half eaten. And he was like, can you please tell the sisters to not leave their leftover food in the kitchen? I found this in the kitchen. I was like, how do you know it was a sister? It could have been a brother. It could have been a kid. And he's like, no, but the sisters only go in there. I'm like, no, the brothers go in there too. And I remember his brother was walking around, and he overheard our conversation. He was just laughing. And it was just so hurtful to me. But like, why do you look at females like this? And unfortunately, like within our masjid, sometimes men do tend to look like that to women. They don't see the problems that women are facing. They don't acknowledge that women exist. They ignore that women they exist.
And that's everywhere in the society. It's not just the mosque you're talking about. It's even in the schools. It's even in the colleges. Especially at the workplaces, I would like to point out the women and the men, they're working like the equal way, where the woman is getting the less wages. Even if you see, I'm sorry I'm using those, but if you see the actors' way, they both are working in the same way, but the way actors is paid off too much, and the actresses is paid off too less, and they both are in all the scenes. So it's throughout the world this is the problem.
I mean, I've seen it actually more in the Muslim communities. I don't know if, like, my experience within the non-Muslim world hasn't been as bad as it has been within the Muslim community for some reason. And I think part of it, sometimes they think that being religious and having haya means that you ignore a woman. But that's not what it means. You acknowledge that they exist. In the story of Musa and the daughters of Shu'aib, when he runs away from Pharaoh, like he kills that man and he runs away, right? And he gets to a point where he's in safety, and he sees two women with their cattle. And what happens is that he sees that they're waiting to go give water to their cattle, but they're kind of standing to the side, and there are other men with their sheep. I mean, it wasn't cattle, sheep, yeah. So sheep, they're feeding them. And so he goes up to the woman and he says, like, what? Why aren't you feeding, like, your sheep? And they tell him that our father's old and we have to take care of this responsibility. And so it's on us to do this, but there are men, so we wait until the men leave and then we do it. And so he takes their sheep, gives them water, and brings them back to them, and they leave. And so when they go, so in this story, it's really important that Hazrat Musa, he didn't ignore the females. He acknowledged that there are two ladies here, and they're not doing, so the way they're acting is not normal. They have sheep, but they're not feeding the sheep. They're not giving them water. And so he goes and helps them. He doesn't just ignore it. He actually acknowledges their presence, helps them, yet he still maintains haya. And the story leads up where the daughters come back. They invite him over, Hazrat Shu'aib, Prophet Shu'aib, and they go. Prophet Musa goes to their house, and then he ends up marrying one of the daughters.
Yeah, one of the daughters.
So that's, I mean, the story is quite a long story. But the point being is that he acknowledged it. He didn't just be like, okay, it doesn't matter. And so sometimes, like, our brothers in our Muslim communities think that they should just ignore. They put their head down and they pretend we don't exist. And I've seen, like, sisters, they'll be carrying something heavy for the masjid, and the brothers don't even care to come and help them. It's just like, the sister obviously is struggling with this.
So basically you're telling the brothers that, hey, Muslim brothers, remember, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made both of us, like, whatever we sin, whatever we do good, we will be, like, given equal punishment or equal reward. So don't treat us secondary, basically. Understand us.
First, I think it's important just to allow us to acknowledge that we are.
Yeah.
So because that's the thing, it's not even that maybe they think we're secondary. I don't even know if they have that type of, maybe they do, I'm not sure what's their mentality. I'm not going to judge anyone. But sometimes they just pretend we don't exist. We're not seen. We're not seen as an important part of the community. We're half of the community are females or women. And
For those kind of brothers, not everyone is.
no,
like
I'm
that.
not saying everyone,
Yeah, of
obviously.
course, but
Alhamdulillah,
those
we
kind.
have brothers that do pay attention.
But I have seen that in all kind of races, in all kind of countries, because I have lived in more countries. You know, I'm just not from the States. I have lived in more countries, and being a part of India, and where like Muslims are in minority, Hindus are in majority.
Yeah.
I've seen that a lot over there. So when it comes to different religion, yes, I've seen that in all religions. I have basically,
they have that.
But the thing is that there's a huge difference between Islam and other religions. I don't know what other religion says. Definitely unlike Islam, but Islam says we are not similar, but we are equal. And the examples given by the Holy Prophet and any kind of Aimma, Ahlul Bayt, the way they used to treat their wife, Imam Ali alayhi salam, the way he used to treat his wife and the way she treated, the way it is totally different when we compare to other religions. You know, if we follow our religions, you know, if we follow the people who are really following Islam, they really have a good conduct and behavior towards the Muslim sisters and Muslim women. They really respect them. You know, because we know we do go hand in hand with each other. But when I saw how the other religion, what they speak about women, it's different than Islam. Islam really treats a woman in a very high status.
Yeah, definitely. It's important, like, you know, we need to be seen. And also, like, the brothers need to understand the women. Because women they're dealing with certain problems that the men don't necessarily
They
deal
don't
with.
even understand that.
They don't
I can-
understand
yeah.
that. And I think it's important, like, unfortunately, I was talking to a sister and she was saying that how there was one brother who was giving a lecture and he was saying that, oh, women don't need to study. And I was just like, are you serious? Are you really serious? You're telling me, like, women don't need to study? Of course we need to study. How are we going to raise children if we don't study? How can women are usually the ones who watch the children, take care of the children, raise the children. So if you have an uneducated woman, if you have a sister who hasn't studied, and we don't have female scholars who aren't teaching the rest of the sisters how to, about Islam, about how
And
to.
I've even heard that in the West, not even in the East.
No, this is
even
in the West. No,
yeah.
these are from brothers who are in the West. I'm not even talking about. I mean, I'm not even discussing.
Because I think most of the
Iran.
people have this kind of mentality. Women's job is just to cook and clean and raise the kids.
Yeah.
And if they are really concentrating on their career and work and do some, working and all, they're actually giving less time to this kind of work. But the thing is that if they have to work, they have to work. Especially there are many times that you have no choice. Majority of the situation when the woman is working, they have no choice. If they had a choice, trust me, they would have done something else. They would not have been sitting in the office and working. Majority of them.
I mean, to be honest, like, this is the issue. When we're living in a society, we realize that there's certain positions that need to be held, right? We need doctors, we need teachers, we need lawyers.
Yeah.
So it's important to recognize, like, one of the needs is we need female scholars.
Yes.
We need female doctors.
We need
female nurses.
Yes.
Because the females have to go to a female doctor.
I think we only need female nurses. Most of them, yeah.
We also need male nurses.
Male
as well.
nurses for the males.
We need female teachers, we need female scholars, we need these, and it's a wajib kifaya. When you don't have enough, it's mandatory on some women to take those positions, because we need women to be able to take those positions. Women can go to them. So certain families have to take that sacrifice.
We have it. We have many.
No,
of
but
them,
that's not enough. Like,
we need more.
We need more. Even in Qom, like, I've seen where finding women doctors sometimes can be difficult. There's not enough. Yeah, even in America, sometimes it's hard to find. And it's not just, you want to also find a good doctor, right? You don't want to just go to a doctor that can't do a good job, especially if it's a serious issue. And in certain areas, there's not that many female doctors, actually.
We need a lot of female doctors.
Female doctors, I mean, half our population is female. If we don't have female doctors for females to go to, then who are they supposed to go to? They're going to go to the male? Like, I'm sorry, for men who are against this issue, would you like your wife to go to a male doctor? I asked that question. Would you like that?
I want you to ask it again, because we will be back after a short break.
Inshallah.
So thank you so much for watching us. We will be back after a short break. Welcome back after a short break. So, sister, we have been talking about a very interesting topic that the men, the husbands, or the fathers, they don't allow the woman to go out, or, they are studying, they are doing bachelor's, they are doing master's, and then they get married. No. And then they say, you cannot be doctors, you cannot be working.
I mean, most men are not like that.
Most men are not at all
No,
like
they're
that.
not like that. But there are men out there who do.
For the
think
men
that,
who are like that, we are talking.
yeah,
right?
obviously. I don't mean to be disrespectful to any of the brothers, but it's important to recognize that for the brothers who think that we don't need women doctors, like, it's a problem. Like, I mean, and I say this with pain.
Yeah.
Because, like, for me personally, and I tell you, it's hard when you don't have female teachers to go to. It's difficult.
Yeah.
I have questions that I want to ask, but when it's a male scholar, I mean, you still can interact, but it's very, very difficult when you have akhlaqi issues, when you want to talk about personal issues, to talk to a brother. It's very, very difficult to a male scholar. It's very difficult. And unfortunately, right now, like in the West, there are women out there who are dealing with postpartum. They're dealing with, have been raped, unfortunately.
Yeah.
There are women out there who, there's so many different issues. Like,
I don't know. I understand from this point that women psychologists are more understandable for a woman's issue. I don't know if maybe I'm wrong than a male. Because I think when I was having a discussion on a very general discussion on a rape issue on someone, because the rape has become so common. If a girl goes through a rape, she won't be able to forget that incident at all, because it's like a huge hole in her heart, while talking to the person, the way he answered, I did not accept the answers. So I was thinking maybe a woman's heart can understand that better than that person.
It could be. I mean, it depends on the profession. But, like, personally, if I had a daughter and God forbid something like that had happened, I would prefer her to go to a female.
Female, yeah. You're more comfortable than a male.
It's more comfortable.
Yeah.
And then there's, like, shaitan won't, like,
The
there's
devil.
less chance of a sin happening there. So it's just healthier. Healthier both from an Islamic standpoint and even, like, on a material aspect. Like, just on a, even if not someone's non-Muslim, like, I know a lot of non-Muslims who like to go to all women gyms. They're more comfortable. Like, even non-Muslims understand that. So it
there
makes
are many
sense.
non-Muslims who want to go to that ladies' gym.
So, like, when it comes down to our Islamic schools, even, like, when we have, elementary, high school, middle school, we also need female teachers to teach our girls, right? And they need that type of influence. They need female role models in their life to guide them. I remember I was doing tabligh last summer.
Speaking.
Yeah. I was doing tabligh and I was speaking for a group of high school girls last year. Well, it wasn't this summer, it was the beginning of their school year. And it's funny, it was interesting because their ethics teacher was a man. And they're like, oh, it's so nice to be able to talk to a female, like, about, I don't know, they had just different questions in just different areas, hijab and issues for girls and depression and different things. And they were excited to be able to talk to someone who studied in the seminary, in the Hawza, and was female, and they could answer their questions. And because I also grew up there, I actually graduated from that same school, so I was able to relate to them and explain. And I told them about my experiences growing up in America. So it's really important. It's something that we really need. And if the brothers understand this, they can help support women in being able to fulfill these roles. Because it is wajib kifaya.
This is mandatory, yeah.
It is mandatory. It is wajib. We need these positions. And again, like, this issue of females being scholars, this is not even coming straight from me. It's coming from someone who studied years and years in the Hawza, like, he's at a
seminary,
and that level of like a marja. He was the one who said this, or else I would never be dare to even say that, because until now then I was just like, okay, it doesn't seem like it's such a need, or I was too scared to even admit that, even though I felt like it was a need. But once he said it, I was like, oh, okay, then there is a need. And I was saying it, there was a struggle for me as well, because unfortunately, I've had that many female teachers as well. I do have a few, but they're not that many who study at high levels. So that is an issue.
Oh, wow. So basically, we have been talking about the men who do not understand the heart of a woman. Please don't take her as a secondary. She's not secondary, because Islam says you both are not similar, but you both are equal. Mm-hmm. Definitely. So respect her.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. So we can learn from the Prophet. one thing that we see, the way that the Prophet would treat Fatima al-Zahra, he would kiss her hand.
The daughter, yeah.
Yeah, right? He would stand up when she would enter a room. He really treated with a lot of high respect, even with his wives. We see that. He would sometimes do khutbahs. He would give lectures to only women. So we say that there's a special attention and a special focus that he did give to women. And that it wasn't, and so this is something that he did do. And we also say in the Quran that there's a special focus on women.
Wow.
There's a whole surah named An-Nisa, the women.
The woman, yeah.
In the Quran, right? We have the surah Al-Maryam, Maryam, who is named after one of the best women within paradise. So we have these examples in the Quran that show, like, oh, this is an important topic. This is something that we need to address and we need to focus on, and we need to pay attention to and not ignore. So that's really important. Now, within the Quran, we see that Maryam alayhi salam is a role model that the Quran gives to us. Now, Hazrat Maryam, for me, especially since my name is Maryam, always had a
Special connection with her,
special
right?
connection. No, really, I always names are important within Islam. We have hadiths and traditions that we should name our children the best names that we can, after people who are the best people, because it affects them. It affects who you are, who you become. And so for me, growing up, Hazrat Maryam was always an inspiration because my name was Maryam, and I always felt like a special connection to her. I would always look up to her as a role model, as someone who I would always aspire to be, one of the best women within Jannah. And what a beautiful thing is. It was funny. I was talking to someone who is pregnant at the time, at the moment, and we were talking about names, and she was doubtful to name her child Fatima or Zahra or different names. And she wanted to name her child Zahra, but people had discouraged her, saying, like, oh, there's so many Zahras, like, no, pick another name. And it's funny, it was just like, well, first of all, Imam Hussein named all of his sons Ali. Like Ali Akbar, Ali Asghar, like you can constantly just Ali, like Imam Sajjad's name is Ali. He named all of them Ali, so that didn't stop him from naming like the rest of his children Ali, just because he had one Ali. So just because one name is a lot in our community, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't be using that name. And added to that, I also saw something interesting was that Fatima al-Zahra, whoever is named after her, she will do shafa'a like for on the Day of Judgment. So like the name has a huge impact on us.
It has, because there's also a hadith which said there was one man approached this Imam, and then he said, I had a baby girl. What did you name her? He said, Fatima.
Yeah.
He said, now that you named her as Fatima, never raise your hands on her.
Yeah.
He said, the impact of Bibi Fatima is so strong.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful. Actually,
Exactly.
I love this name, Fatima. I really want.
Yeah, Fatima is very beautiful.
Yeah, very beautiful name. It's a very common name. It should be a common name because
Yeah,
of the
alhamdulillah.
love for
It
Bibi
is,
Fatima
it is,
Zahra.
alhamdulillah.
Definitely.
And it definitely, you create a love between that person, that child with that character when you name them after that character. So it's important. It's really important to name our children good names, and especially if we can try to name them after the Ahlul Bayt. Now, so anyway, back to this Hazrat Maryam's topic. Yeah. So Maryam alayhi salam, she was born yatim. So her father, orphan. Yeah. So her father was Imran. He was a prophet. He was a very pious man. He was known. And his wife, so Maryam's mother had a sister.
Yes.
Okay? So there were two sisters. One married Zakaria.
Yeah.
And the other married Imran.
Both were prophets.
And both of them are prophets. So, and it's interesting because both of them couldn't bear children. Both sisters couldn't bear children. And so what happens is that one day, the wife of Imran sees birds, a mother bird with her children. And she sees them interacting. And so she sees this and she really, really wants children. She sees this and she's like, oh, she should pray. She makes dua. And from that dua, she gets pregnant.
Yeah.
And she gets pregnant with Maryam, alayhi salam. And so what happens is before Maryam is born, Imran, alayhi salam, passes away, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So Maryam, alayhi salam, was yatim. She was orphaned.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because if you look within the history, we see that typically great people, and also really horrible people too at times, are orphans. Being an orphan
Yeah.
has a huge impact on a person.
Yes.
Because it's usually, sometimes the person can become very, very good or very, very bad, depending on
Situation.
the situation. I think Hitler was also an orphan, if I'm not mistaken.
So
So
Hitler.
definitely the other way. Definitely the other side. But if you look at a lot of great people, scholars, a lot of times they're yatim. They're orphaned.
Yeah.
And it's because when a person is yatim, an orphan, they go through that difficulty of not having a father, right? So anyway, so back to Maryam alayhi salam. So Maryam was yatim. She was orphaned. And so I want to go through the story of Maryam alayhi salam. And one of the things that the Quran mentions is the story of her being born. And one of the figures that is mentioned in the Quran is the mother of Maryam in the Quran. And the story of what did she do when she got pregnant. And so even Maryam's mother is a figure that we can look up to.
Yes.
She's a role model. It's interesting. Maryam alayhi salam, she is great herself.
Yes.
Yet her mother is also very great.
Was her name Rahila?
I think
Something like that.
No, actually it wasn't Rahel. I think it's Hannan. It started with a He.
Okay.
I remember seeing it, but her name is not in the Quran though.
Okay.
So Maryam alayhi salam is actually the only one female that her name is actually in the Quran. She's
Yes.
the only. So her name, she's you can tell just based on that. I think her name was in the Quran like 34 times. Okay, and that's a lot. Like our
Yes.
own prophet's name is only 3 times in the Quran, but Maryam alayhi salam 34 times. So obviously she has a great caliber. The fact that her name is mentioned, and also a lot of times when Masih, Isa, Jesus alayhi salam is mentioned in the Quran, it mentions Masih ibn Maryam, like that. Oh, it's the Jesus son of Mary,
Son of
Maryam.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that even when Jesus' name is mentioned in the Quran, Isa alayhi salam's name is mentioned,
Yeah.
Maryam's also mentioned
Also
with
is
it.
mentioned.
So
Wow.
it's interesting because it shows that the greatness that Jesus had a lot of it came from the fact that his mother was Maryam, and she did a good job with him. Now, so let's get into the verse. Now, this is in Surah Al Imran. Al Imran was Maryam's father, so Al Imran means the family of Imran. So we have this verse. It's in verse 35. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم إذ قالت امرأة عمران ربي إني نذرت لك ما في بطني محررا فتقبل مني إنك أنت السميع العليم. So this is verse, let me read the translation. It says, when the wife of Imran said, "O my Lord, I dedicate to you in consecration what is in my belly. Accept it for me. Indeed, you are the all-hearing and the all-knowing." So this is the dua. So the wife of Imran here finds out that she's pregnant. And she vows that which is in her stomach, that she does a nadr. The Arabic term for it is nadr, meaning that she dedicates Maryam to Allah, that this baby will worship you
Yeah.
for eternity.
Yeah.
For
Until
her
she's
life.
like, yeah.
And so she's making this nazr. And this is interesting that the mother of Maryam,
Yeah. It's making this intention.
she's making this intention. Now it's huge, like for a person
Huge.
to be like, okay,
Yeah.
my child is going to be in the worship of Allah, he or she, and at this point, she doesn't. So this is the thing. Imran told the mother of Maryam that there would be a prophet born from them.
Yeah.
So they thought it was a boy at the beginning. They didn't know it was
they thought
Maryam.
it was a boy.
And so, but it doesn't matter. What happens is she still makes this nazr, just like, okay, oh Allah, I'm vowing this child for you. I want to make this child I want to bring this child into the earth so that she or he worships you.
Yeah.
And this is our intention. So just the intent of it is huge.
It's beautiful,
The
yeah.
way that
It's the mother's beginning, the mother has
But
done
also remember that at this point, Imran's passed away.
Yeah.
So this is only her at this point, that she's making this intention. Or if Imran was alive, she might have not been, she might have not had the opportunity to do that. Imran would have to make that.
Yeah. Yeah, wow. So thank you so much, Sister Maryam, for being part of this program. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So thank you so much, dear viewers, for being part of this program. Stay tuned for another exciting topic. Until then, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.